The other day, I was looking around for my diamond sharpening plates and I couldn't find them, so here is my solution. And I thought it would be the perfect time to try out this new base plate I bought at Lee Valley for my compact router. I grabbed an offcut of maple from a project I've been working on and began tracing the diamond plates with a marking knife where I wanted to route out my inlays. First for the 600-1200 double-sided DMT plate, and then for the smaller coarse grit plates on the other side. Although I'm doing fine with what I have, if someone wants to send me a decent marking knife, I wouldn't say no. After turning the board what seems like an absurd amount of times, I finally settled on a position and clamped the board down to the bench. I decided to use a 1-inch surfacing bit that I purchased off Amazon to route out about an 1/8 inch of material from the inlay, trying to stay about a 1/16 of an inch inside the line. After vacuuming up some of the mess, I can take the chisel and clean up the edges. While I wasn't very impressed with the surfacing bit from Amazon, the new base plate from Veritas was very impressive. It kept the router both steady and level, and it was very smooth to operate, even across the 4x10 area I needed to route for this inlay. What do you know, it fits. After I was finished the larger one, I got to work on the smaller ones. Once I was sure they were well fit, I began to brainstorm what I should do with the extra space. I was jumping between cutting out a handle or installing a bow tie over the crack in the end of the board. And in the end, I decided on a handle. So I clamped it to the bench and I carved it out with my jigsaw. Afterwards, I thought it would be cool to clamp it in my vise and shape it by hand with some rasps. After 5 minutes of that, it seemed like it was going to take me a week or more to finish, so I said screw hand tools and decided that power tools were the way to go. I got out my trusty painter's tape and CA glue and stuck on a handle jig I used on a previous project. Since the bit was already in my router, I just had to set the depth so the bearing on the bit would ride along the jig and cut a copy into the board. I could then head over to the oscillating belt sander and give all the corners a nice round over. Don't all the burn marks from the cheap Amazon surfacing bit give it a nice rustic look? Yeah, I thought so too. I then headed back over to the router to soften up the edges with a round over as well. And now to complete my high school shop project with a little bit of finish. After laying down some parchment paper, I give it a nice healthy coating of Odie's Oil Super Duper. I'm sure you've noticed that it's a recurring theme on this channel. Well, let's put this together and see how it works. First thing I'm going to do is clamp it down to the bench to keep it from moving around, and then with the aid of my sharpening jig to set the angle, I just go up the grits one at a time, making sure that after the final grit I work off the burr. It only took me a couple hours to make, and I think it's going to come in super handy around the shop. And I will be releasing a video in the future demonstrating how I go about sharpening my chisels. If you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it, please feel free to like, subscribe, and give it a thumbs up, and go back and check out my other videos.